Greenlight Network presents Football Time.
Hey, welcome to the Football Time podcast. We're here with our man, Achilles Rain. We're doing the recap of the Super Bowl, the last game of this season. The season has come to a conclusion, and it was a little bit of a dud conclusion. 31-8, or 9, into the Super Bowl. It was a blowout, just like I predicted. Wrong team, however, got the blowout. What'd you make of the game? What'd you make of the Super Bowl? What'd you make of the year?
Don't get as fun as the Super Bowl always is to watch, because there are so many different factors that come into play when you're talking about the halftime show, the Super Bowl commercials, the ads, and all these little spots that we get throughout. It seemed a little underwhelming compared to everything else. I know that this is a very strange year for the NFL with the whole COVID situation. So I'm glad we got to the Super Bowl. I'm glad we had a regular season. We should be thankful for all that. The NFL did a really good job as far as putting together some protocols to do their best so that we wouldn't really miss any football. And they came through, and we didn't miss a single week of football, even into the playoffs. So there were definitely some highlights, but this Super Bowl, a little underwhelming in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Well, if you like defense, I will say I was thoroughly impressed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. That was probably one of the greatest performances by a defense in the Super Bowl. So I will give that shout out. There's the Team Scruff winner of the Puppy Bowl on our screen. Be sure to give a shout out to Team Scruff and the winner of the Puppy Bowl right there. Let's get into the game review a little bit here. This is the first time that Chiefs offense in 3 years has ever looked this disappointing and this poor. How much of it do you make of the offensive line movement of the Kansas City Chiefs? How much do you make of this Tampa Bay defense really stepping up? I mean, you look at that list of quarterbacks they beat to get here. Breeze, Rodgers, and Mahomes. Technically, Tyler Heineke too, but I'm not quite sure we put him in the same category as the other three.
Yeah, it was definitely a really tough road for Tampa Bay to get to this point. They had to go through the best of the best, and they were the last ones remaining standing. So you have to give them some sort of respect. I know that defense really played lights out. It seemed like it was going to be a really defensive game early on. I know that we had punt. Then Kansas City finally scored a field goal, and then we had another punt. So it seemed like it was going to be a low-scoring affair. I know that I talked about it, especially with you. I'm not sure if we talked about it on air or not, but I did mention that I was a little concerned. I was taking the Chiefs, but I did have some concerns. I was a little concerned about that Tampa Bay defense. I did talk about how they've been playing a lot better, especially in the playoffs. So I was a little concerned. My head was telling me to pick Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, which is never a bad bet. But my gut was telling me that Brady was going to make some magic happen, and he played really well.
Yeah. The offense for the Bucs played solid. I thought they put the Chiefs defense, in no-win situations. The second they were capable of running the ball, it was over for that Chiefs defense, because whatever they were doing to try to stop the run, the second they do that, they drop their little short passes in there and intermediate routes. And, basically Tampa Bay didn't even go to their nonsensical deep ball passing game. It was quick outs, quick slants, quick streaks to Gronk, and a handful to Evans. And that was basically it. It was dump downs to the running backs. It was dump downs to the tight ends. Evans had 30 yards. Godwin, I think, had 19. They didn't even utilize the receivers, really. So just an interesting game plan overall. I did not think the Chiefs defense played well. referees or not. I did think a couple of those calls were shady, but I did not think that's why the Kansas City Chiefs lost the game. It would have probably helped fakely make it closer, but the Chiefs scored 9 points and had no touchdowns. They weren't winning that game.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time you heard the Chiefs offense, let alone the Chiefs team, put up only 9 points? You expect, if that offense not going to do something, you expect at least some sort of playmaking play for that defense where they probably run a touchdown back, a pick six or something. But to only put up 9 points in the Super Bowl, I think that you can say whatever you want to say about the refs. I know some calls were definitely questionable, but to lose 31-9, that's just a plain beatdown. And I think that we have to give Tom Brady and that Buccaneers defense their credit. When we got to give them their props, and we can't really take anything away from them. They earned this win, and that's why they're Super Bowl champs. To me, that offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs was really a big issue, and there was a lot of different factors that played into it. One, you obviously had a couple of guys that were out for health reasons, and then a story that came out, right before the Super Bowl, which we didn't really want to touch on, but there was a situation where one of the members of the coaching staff, had a bit of an incident off the field, and how much of that actually played into it, I don't know, but I think that it at least factored in some where people were thinking about this because it was a very tragic situation, and it definitely, in my opinion, at least played some sort of factor in the final outcome of this game.
Yeah, I think it might have. I think more than anything, though, that Eric Fisher injury at the end of the Buffalo Bills game, him blowing his Achilles out. Then they shift the line in 3 different spots. And really, I can't the two ends got a lot of the credit, but really I thought it was Sue and Vea who pushed that pocket up the middle and just gave Mahomes, quarterbacks will tell you that pressure up the middle is really what they don't like. And I thought Vea and Sue just annihilated them up the middle and pushed them to those defensive ends and really didn't allow the Chiefs to get help on the outside because Vea and Sue were pushing the middle so hard. I thought this was probably one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen from a team in the Super Bowl. You go to that Ravens team in, I believe, 2002, who shut down the New York Giants and didn't act. I mean, technically they gave a shutout. They gave up a special team score, but that one, you go back to the 85 Bears who shut down the New England Patriots. It would have been a little more impressive if the Patriots hadn't screwed over my Miami Dolphins and we got the Dolphins Bears, best offense, best defense. That's possibly a podcast for April, May, June that we get into. But I hate to do this to you, but the New England Patriots shutting down your boys, the greatest show on turf. But I definitely thought this performance was up there. Just a masterful performance by that Tampa Bay defense to shut down an offense that has just been totally on point. I mean, I basically kept waiting, like, the Chiefs to make that run where they rip off, 14, 20 points. And then about halfway through the third quarter, I pretty much was like, it's not coming.
Well, think about it. The last time that we saw the Chiefs play really bad as a team, as an entire team, not just as a unit, but as a team, was against the Las Vegas Raiders. And so it's been a while since and even in that game, they still put up points. They still were able to make a run at the end. This game, they were able to do nothing. They couldn't give Patrick Mahomes enough time to make any sort of play, which obviously affected the game. But yeah, as you mentioned, the pressure coming straight down the middle with Sue, that was a big factor when it comes to quarterback play. They definitely rather get pressured. If obviously they don't want pressured, but if they had to be pressured from any side, they'd rather be pressured from the edge because when these guys start wrapping around, the quarterback, even though they have to have a feel for those guys out there, they can't really see them. But when you're getting pressure straight down the middle, it completely throws the entire play out of whack when it comes to timing and all that. So It really affected him, and they couldn't get anything whatsoever going. Now, a lot of it has to do with the fact that that front line, that front seven for the Bucks, was definitely really stout, and they just seem to be getting better and better as the playoffs were progressing. So they got to get their props. I think they deserve it, and they played really well. That's why they're Super Bowl champions now.
Yeah, I don't think this Tampa Bay defense was one of the greatest defenses of all times, but I definitely thought that performance on Sunday was one of the greatest performances of all time by a defense. It was just unbelievable. I wanted to ask you about Patrick Mahomes. Now, he didn't take a lot of the blame. He was getting pressured a lot, but this is the first time I sort of saw him playing like the Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, where he's, running around like a chicken with his head cut off and just launching balls, 60 yards downfield at random angles. I did not think he played all that well. Now, pressure had something to do with it, but I thought it got to him, and he started, getting a little spazzy out there. This is what made him drop in the draft, was people watch stuff like that at Texas Tech. So, I mean, what did you make of Patrick Mahomes' performance in this game?
Yeah, I don't think that we can excuse him. He played poorly. And I understand that people are going to say, well, he was pressured all day. Yes, he was pressured all day. But when you're the former Super Bowl MVP, when you're considered to be the best quarterback in the league, you're going to have situations where you're going to face adversity. And how you handle it is really telling. He tried his best, so I'll give him credit for trying, but he didn't play well. He went 26 of 49 for 270 and 2 interceptions. Now his wide receivers,
like 150 of that was in the fourth quarter when the game was over.
Oh yeah, when there's really no point in having him out there. But with all that being said, I do give him some credit for at least coming out there and really trying to make something happen. But some of the plays were even a little bit questionable. There was a certain play when he was being pressured and he was pushed out of the pocket and he's facing his end zone and he flung the ball behind him. I just didn't understand some of the decision making. I know he was under pressure and he was under duress, but you still expect better from him. He didn't play well, and his wide receivers didn't help him either.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I thought they dropped some of those crazy passes as well. So just overall, bad performance by the Chiefs. The other thing I wanted to jump on, two things more I wanted to jump on this game. Both of them are kind of dumb. I was a little disappointed that they didn't give a defensive guy the MVP in this game. I think we all know it goes to quarterback of every team. And I think me and some of our workmates said they were giving Brady the MVP. Even if he passed out at the start of the game, they were going to hand him the MVP. But I really thought White or Sue or Vea or Pierre-Paul probably should have gotten an MVP nod here, because to rack up 3 touchdowns at 200 yards on the Kansas City Chiefs defense, not all that impressive. But to have a team that shuts down a team that's really been one of the greatest offenses in football for the last 3 years and hold them to 9 points, I thought was something special. And I thought, in the history books, it should show that this Tampa Bay defense should have had an MVP in the Super Bowl here.
Yeah, or how about Devin White? He had that interception. He had 2 tackles for a loss. He had 8 total tackles. I mean, he seemed to be all over the place. I know that he was everybody's sweetheart as the season was ending for defensive players. He possibly could have won it. I think there was a lot of guys that were definitely deserving on that defense, but it's when Tom Brady's on your team, he can go 10 for 50, 100 yards and 3 picks, and he'd still get MVP because he's Tom Brady. And I'm not trying to criticize him because he played one hell of a game. I know that statistically it doesn't look great. He didn't have to do much, but when it comes to managing the game and managing the flow of the game, he played a hell of a game.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's just, in 40 years when we look back on the game and we're going to be like, oh, Tom Brady won the MVP. I don't think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense was the story of that game. It was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and everybody's going to think it was the offense because all we have is stats, we won't be able to go back. Just like if you looked at the MVP award for some game played in the 1960s, we aren't really going to know. We're just going to look at who won MVP and some of the stats. And I just thought it was a chance to give a nod to that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's also important to bring up the fact that as much as everybody loves Patrick Mahomes, he played a bad game.
Yeah.
And it's because of that defense. It wasn't because, it wasn't all on him. He definitely had a hand in his poor play, but that defense also forced him into a lot of his poor decisions.
Yeah. I sort of want to get to one last thing. It's a dumb thing. It's sort of a thing of mine, but Tony Romo has been calling games now for about 4 years. And I have about a 4-year rule on color analysts. I think they should be like college players. They should go 4 years, and then we should get someone new in there. So I don't know. He particularly annoyed me in this Super Bowl game, and I'm a little tired of him, especially when he went on his rant where they were showing Mahomes, and he was like, oh, he'll be back numerous times, and he's got a lot of Super Bowls under his belt. And that just seemed like the dumbest comment I've ever heard in my life. I don't think you can guarantee anyone's going to make numerous Super Bowls. I think your Los Angeles Rams probably are a point of that. I think if we had stared at Jared Goff 3 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl, we'd be like, yeah, they'll be back hundreds of times to win Super Bowls. And it's just not guaranteed. And I don't know. I'm getting a little sick of Tony Romo. We're on our 4-year out for me, and I think we need a new color analyst.
I get where you're coming from. I can see your point. I personally really like Tony Romo. I think that he adds a really good dynamic that we're not used to getting. I know that we have a lot of former players that come into the booth, and they have they know what's going on. Like when they're watching everything on the field, they know what's going on. They know what's coming up. They know what's going to happen. But I think that Tony has been the best as far as being able to simplify and explain it and put it out there to the crowd, to the point where my wife, who's probably the best prop bettor that I've ever met in my life, by the way, she sits down and she learns things just from hearing his commenting. So I think that I don't see him going anywhere because he does a really good job at.
No, I think he has a lifetime contract now for season. So.
Yeah, he does a really good job at teaching the new average fan some of the more in-depth details of the NFL and the game itself.
Yeah, I didn't say he had to go anywhere. We get him on Jacksonville games now, and we sub in someone new, so we get a new voice.
Okay, that's fair enough. At least alternate it.
Yes. All right. Any more about the Super Bowl, or are you ready to move on to the NFL awards?
I just do want to say this. I know that it was one of my long shots, but if somehow Kansas City would have won that game, their best player on the field that day was Kelsey, and I think he would have snagged that MVP. Just throwing that out there.
Well, I think they needed more than 9 points to snag that MVP. I did think there was a chance your Gronk was going to get it, and you were going to get your tight end pick. So,
my prediction for tight end wins MVP. He almost had it.
I don't think you thought Gronk was going to be the one grabbing it.
But I did have a little bit of a feeling about the tight end position, and I just didn't expect it to be Gronk.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the NFL awards honors. It was on Saturday. I know we were all glued to our TVs watching with bated breath as these unfolded. Let's start out with the Pepsi Rookie of the Year. It was Justin Herbert. I don't think there was much choice here. What did you think anybody else was going to win it?
I think that there were definitely some guys that could have won it had they had stayed healthy. In particular, I'm thinking about the Cincinnati rookie quarterback. I know that he started off not having statistically really good season, but as the season was progressing, his play was getting so much better. And I thought that he had a really high ceiling until his injury. It seems like they overutilized him. But I'm not upset with this pick. I think that they could have done worse. I think Herbert had a really good season, and he came in. We had that whole situation where he was going to be the backup, but then they had that unfortunate Tyrod, shot doctor almost killed him, puncture the lung type of situation, and he stepped in without expecting him, to be in that game. And he really played well, and he took the reins of that team, and he didn't let go. He basically solidified the fact that he's that team's leader going forward. So I think it's very, very well deserved. He had a really good season, and I'm excited to see him next year.
Yeah. I didn't think there was much chance anyone else had it, and I thought Herbert easily won it, especially once Joe Burrow got hurt. You probably could have taken a look at Jordan Jefferson for the Minnesota Vikings. He had a really good year. James Robbins for the Jaguars had a really good year, especially
Anderson in Carolina.
Yeah. So there were a handful of guys in there. Probably the most, I put in quotes, controversial one, though I don't quite know how controversial it was. But Defensive Player of the Year was Aaron Donald. I think some people thought TJ Watt was going to win it. I don't know how you can argue Aaron Donald ever. He's not new. He's won a lot of these, so you might feel like they're ready to move on and name someone else, sort of like Giannis probably isn't going to win the MVP this year, but he's probably having a better year than he had the last two. It's sort of same thing with Aaron Donald. He's always the best defensive player in the league. TJ Watt got a little gripey, but he probably knows too. What'd you make of this?
I mean, I wouldn't have been upset if TJ Watt had won the award. I think that he had a really good season. He really shined, especially in that team where they already had a lot of really good players. So I wouldn't have been upset had he won it. But when you're going up against Aaron Donald, it's gonna take a really, really, really good season to top out Aaron Donald, because in a lot of people's minds, he's probably the best defensive player, at least over the last decade that we've seen. And that's the only reason he won it, really, because he had a great season, but I think other people probably had a better individual season. It's just his name just brings so much weight with it that he deserves it one way or another.
Yeah. Defensive Rookie of the Year, there was really no other choice. Chase Young, quite easily Defensive Rookie of the Year here.
Oh, yeah, he had a really good season. And he really came into his own about 6 weeks into the regular season, where he really started making noise, and he became the type of player where offensively you had to know where he was lined up the entire time. And I'm really excited to see him going forward. I think that his career is really bright, especially if they can kind of, bring some guys along that might help him contribute even more. So we'll see what the future holds for him, but he had a really good season, and I think that it was pretty much a given that he was going to win it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Offensive Player of the Year was Derrick Henry. I guess you could argue Rodgers, Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey. I don't know, but I don't think you have much of an argument outside of Derrick Henry either. Carried that Tennessee Titans offense, and if you watch their defensive play all year, they needed him to carry them every bit of it. Derrick Henry, AP Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh, yeah, and very well deserved also. We saw it all season long. He put up ridiculous numbers basically week in and week out. And I think that team was so successful offensively, and it was mainly because of him. He basically was the motor for that team. As he went, the Titans went. And we saw proof of that when it came to the playoffs. Once he kind of ran out of gas, so did the rest of that offense, and that's why they got knocked out during the playoffs. But as far as he's concerned, very well deserved. He had a really good season, and I don't think a lot of people would argue that.
Yeah, and Comeback Player of the Year, the second to even stared at the grass at the field in Washington. I think this award was going to be his, but Alex Smith, Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah, and I pretty much did the same thing. It was after that first game that he played where he probably wasn't expecting, but I think he was the third stringer for that particular game against the Rams, where they just came in and hurt every single quarterback that showed up, which I was hoping that he wouldn't get hurt, because I really like Alex Smith. But once he laced up his shoes and got into that game, I was like, all right, he's winning the Comeback Player of the Year. And I think it's really well deserved, especially when you take into consideration that really nasty injury he had the previous time he stepped on the field, where many people thought his career was over. So to overcome all that, and even post-surgery, the infections he had to deal with and go through surgery again, I think it was remarkable the fact that he was even able to get on a team, let alone back on the field, and help his team win games, because he had a really good season once he took over as the starter.
Yeah. And MVP, Aaron Rodgers. You could have made the case probably for Patrick Mahomes, but I thought Rodgers was just exceptional this year. I don't think you could pretty much argue anyone else but Aaron Rodgers this year.
Yeah, I don't see how anybody would argue. He probably had one of the best, performances of any quarterback in NFL history. I'm sure that he would trade it all in just to make it past the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But, we obviously,
especially watching that Kansas City defense in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it just at least I think it brought him some sort of closure where he realized, you know what, it wasn't my play. It was that defense, man. They weren't going to give up. They were going to make it all the way because they did a number on Aaron Rodgers too.
Yeah. All right. Those are our NFL season awards. That's our season, pretty much. We're still going to stay on, be on once a week. I believe we're going to come on Fridays, or are we going to come on Wednesdays, Achilles?
I think we're going with Fridays because we've got the other stuff going on with NBA on Wednesdays. But we're definitely going to stick around. I know what you want to share with the listeners, what the plan is for going forward.
Yeah. We're going to do team reviews for the next handful of weeks. We're going to start with the NFC West next week and go through their team, since the biggest breaking news has been the NFC West, though I assume one of these teams is going to trade for Carson Wentz in the next couple weeks. So that might be there, but we'll start in the NFC West and move east from there and do our team reviews. That should lead us into the NFL draft. And after that, we might just stare at each other and talk about old football teams until we get to the preseason stuff. But at least in the next couple months, we'll have some team reviews, and then we'll have NFL draft stuff. The dead zone in between that and preseason stuff, we're still working out in our heads. But at least we have some stuff coming up that at least should keep the show fun and entertaining.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're definitely going to strive to continue to bring some sort of content. We're going to break down, like he said, each team by division. We're going to start with the NFC West, which is where my team stands. So I definitely have a lot to say about these recent trades that happened, as they're calling them the mega trades. So, stay tuned for that. We're definitely going to do our best to keep you guys entertained. And we're not letting football go because just as much as we love football, I'm sure a lot of you guys out there love football also. So we'll definitely keep content coming out so that you guys have some to listen to.
All right. Where can we find you, Achilles?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at TD Achilles. You can find me on Facebook as Achilles Rain. And you can also find this guy at next year's Puppy Bowl.
All right. Be sure to find us on greenlightnetwork.org, Greenlight Network on Facebook, and Greenlight Network on YouTube. Subscribe, like, find us, love us. I'm GLN Champ 5 on Twitter and Instagram. That's our show, and we're out.